Dessers this season has epitomised for me everything a rebuild season should be. To completely overhaul the team is going to take time. So we should only be scoring 2 chances out of 9. She just pushed me over the edge here. She switched off Hall and Oates. I had to leave the kitchen. Alec, why are you in your converted outside toilet again? It's Saturday night, mate. It's relaxing time, maybe even party time. You should be chilling. We just recovered for like a blitz there on Thursday with a storm. There's trees in the middle of the road. Folk have got their roofs caved in and stuff like that. Well, so have I. I've got 4 tiles missing off the roof. The chimney pot come off and stuff. I had to sort of, the insurance, that's been a bit of a nightmare. The fact that folk are a lot worse off than me doesn't make you feel any better, does it? That kind of thing. But it's just, why are you sitting talking to folk? You should be just taking this chance to relax. Nothing gets done on a Saturday night. You're sitting there and you're talking to folk because there's just no place for me right now in the main body of the house. I think it's better I leave. I left the kitchen there. We'll have the music on while we're doing things. This Hall and Oates coming on. I'll just fast forward that, she says. Fast forward Hall and Oates. Fast forward. I know it wasn't one of the best Hall and Oates. It was "You Making My Dreams Come True." I don't like that one. But Hall and Oates is just, it's kind of sacred to me. You don't, just fast forward. You don't, swipe left or swipe right, whatever it is you do when it comes to Hall and Oates. You don't get rid of it. You just let it play. You enjoy the vibe. I grew up with Hall and Oates. I grew up with him being on that. I've actually got a Hall and Oates album somewhere, the vinyl somewhere, because I made all the specials and the Smiths and the Joy Division and stuff like that. Broken Britain and what's actually going on, and like the British blues. We need to get it out of your system. You've done too much. My dad was on Top of the Pops too last night, I know, but I did actually get that. So I've got mum to go down to Wilkes and get me. Could you get me too much, too young, but just like you were basically conceived out of wedlock. Mother was 17 when she got knocked up with me by the fella she ended up marrying. He's better known as my dad, and he was like 19. So that whole scenario was basically about me. But Mum, you didn't get that song all about your childhood, how it was ruined by me, the person that's making you go and buy that single. But the reality can sometimes get a bit. It's too much reality. You can't have things being too harsh. You need to have somewhere you can just go, and it's like it's glamorous and it's safe and it's smooth and it's silky and it's all shiny, and their videos, they've got big hair, and he's got ginger hair the same as me. The whole Oro's, I can't mind what one's what, but he's got, it's kind of gingery reddish hair, and he's got it all kind of fly blown, the feather cut stuff and all that, and he's got leather jackets on, and he's on the organ thing or whatever it is he does sometimes with a guitar, and then there's a wee fellas, and they're doing all that. It's really glamorous and nice, and you're watching it going, yeah, that's smooth, silky sound, It's like it's a safe foreign. It's a safe foreign because it's English they're speaking. They're speaking the same language as you, but it's foreign, so you can go there. And when you go to New York, not that, and like the reality is folk are rude to you. I remember being in what was it, Hell's Kitchen? Don't be totally gentrified in that by the time I went there. I thought, I'm going to go for a pint in Hell's Kitchen. I went to this bar in Hell's Kitchen, and the Irish lassie behind the bar. It's all the bar staff, and it's the law over there. I don't know what Donald Trump's doing about that, but all the bar staff have to be from the Republic Island. And she was like, I'd had about 4 Guinnesses in about 5 minutes. And it was the Mucky Duck or something it was called. That was the name of the booze that used to be in Brimlin Road, wasn't it? It used to be behind the old Celtic end. Was it the Mucky Duck? Something like that. And there's a couple of fellas were in there, like all kind of middle-aged. Well, I wasn't. I was like kind of late 20s at the time, early 30s. But these fellas were proper like age I am the new. And they'd had a few pints. Local guys, Americans, New Yorkers. And she's like, I think you've had enough, gents. They were ordering a couple of drinks, and they just were like, all right, fair enough, and left. I'm thinking they've had about 2 pints, but it was like she just didn't trust them. But I'd gone to places. It really, I think that's a bit harsh. And then I went into like a cafe and stuff like that, and the whole tipping thing kicked in, and it was near. There's this massive big. It's an old house, like the style of in Ireland. When you get the potato famine, the style of the houses were, and basically made out of kind of brick into the hillside with grass roofs and all that. Stone, no brick, stones, like boulders would make the house. They've got a whole memorial to the Irish potato famine. Obviously, a lot of folk came to New York, the diaspora and all that started, and it's so. It's near the waterside. It's near the. Aye, is it Jersey that's over there? Is that the Hudson? Or is that the East River? I can't remember. But it's there. And I remember me and my wife going, and it's got all these stones, the names of all the villages and that really suffered horrifically during the potato famine. Lots of the folk had come over to New York, and we were standing there, oh, that's quite, oh dear, that's just paying my respects kind of thing. And you can walk up, it's like a walkway thing that goes up onto what would be the roof of this a rebuilt version of this old kind of Irish farmer's kind of house. And we're standing there, and next thing this lassie appears beside us. You know what I mean? Like in her 20s or 30s, whatever, like that, with the full jogging gear on, puffing and panting. Kind of, she'd been using it to go up and do kind of sprint training. You know, and she's going, yeah, what is this? And I'm like, it's a memorial to the Irish potato famine. I mean, I know I'm supposed to be like a Brit and all that kind of thing, but I mean, a bit of respect, please. This is an actual, like, you're probably descended from folk that come over here because of this, and she's just like, oh, it's really good for a workout, and I'm like, that's absolutely unbelievable. But even stuff like that, you're thinking, yeah, that's what Americans are supposed to be like. That's the kind of one of the stereotypes you get watching them on television. You know, it's like any other nation. There's hundreds of different types of people. In any country, you're thinking, yeah, it's great because it's an insensitive American. We're kind of disgusted, but at the same time, we're loving it because this is part of the holiday. And we went into a cafe near there, and what was it? I think, say it was like $16. So I gave the guy $20 or something like that. And this was one of the first times I'd ever been. I knew about the tipping thing. I'd read up the tipping thing with the beers and all that. Been in bars, but of course it's a wee cafe. We just get ourselves a wee cup of tea, like, 11s or something like that when we're out touring. And the guy went to, I gave him $20 for the bill, and he goes away. And I'm like, that guy's not got back my change. It was more like, it wasn't even about the amount. I just thought, that's what you do. Obviously, and here in Britain, if you give somebody a tip, no, they give you the money. They give you your change back, and then you go, I just keep that for yourself, pal. Or you'll give them the $20 or £20, whatever it would be here, and just I keep the change, pal. I didn't. I would just thought £16 or $16. Say I'll give them £3 or something. But I gave him a $20 bill, and he never appeared again. And I eventually said to Alass, he says, the guy that was serving us, I gave him the money, and he never come back. And she was like, "How was there a problem?" I says, "No, it's just my change. I was waiting for my change for my bills. How much was your bill?" I says, $16. Much did you give him? $20. She was like, "That's why he's not come back." What? And eventually the fella come back, and he gave me it in, like, I don't know, 10 cents or something, like, just slapping it down the table, really low, and it was coins he was giving. I'm like, what's happened? What's going on? Why is this guy giving me a hard time? I didn't realise that was just how heavy duty the tipping culture is, like a kind of, it's just, it's a religious thing over there. You go, and it's a great culture in terms of the tipping and all that. And but it's like, this guy's slapping this down, and this was such a New York thing, like what you've seen on the telly. It was fantastic. It's like Hall and Oates. It's just really, it's part of the vibe. But you couldn't even be insulted by it because it's like, this is great, And plus, I was wrong. I was totally. I learned, obviously, serious tipping. The next few times I've been to the States, it's been, there you go, take $50 for that, stick of gum or whatever I've just bought there. You tip heavy, you tip big, and you keep doing that. That's fantastic. That's the culture, and you enjoy it. You enjoy giving away the money because that's America. You're living that Americana, and you can you can talk to folk, chat to folk straight away. You don't have to, there's no language barrier for somebody like me, and that's how I feel about Hall and Oates, and that's how I feel about America. And you just need that safe place to go. It's a kind of safe delusion when things get too much, like the wind's blowing the roof tiles off your roof and stuff like that. And I feel the same way, maybe football wise, when things get a bit too real with the football. I feel like that about the English. I feel like that about England, like the EPL, and even the lower leagues in England. Even non-league in England. I've been to the old Conference League. I went to see Accrington Stanley playing Morecambe before either of them were in the actual league system. Actually Monday night non-league live on Sky. I was there. I was at one of the games. It was really good. I got the mushy peas and all that, Accrington Stanley, the Crown Ground, and I went to the hotel. Was it Peel Street or Peel Road or something? Used to be their old ground when they were a league club, Accrington Stanley, the first time around. And I went to the hotel that's behind everything. It's the actual part, the actual stadium itself, the original ground is now like a kids' playground or something like that. So I was hanging about a kids' playground 10:30 at night or whatever it was. It's just, but like the hotel and everything else round about it that you see from the old photographs, or if you look up that kind of stuff on the internet, was exactly the same. It was quite surreal, and I love. I've been to games in all the top five, the top five flights in England, and I love England, and it's all tea and cakes. You just think that they're having tea and cakes. It's a thing about it. It's like they speak the same language, but it's, I don't know. That whole, is it George Bernard Shaw? Britain and America, two countries divided by a common language. Maybe it's, Scotland and England are two countries divided by Hadrian's Wall. No, they are divided by Hadrian's Wall. No, that's no working. But the common language, it's like it's the same language, but it isn't really. Different accents in different parts. But England's the place you can just be, when everything gets too much, you can just sit down and you can just enjoy English football, where they're having their tea and their cake, and they go, hello, hello, we are United boys, hello, hello. And the songs are kind of cute and they're kind of quaint. Never walk alone, and it's not the same as when Celtic sing it. It's like, oh, it's the Scousers, they're all cheery chappies and that kind of thing. Except when you're sitting in amongst their seats and they're trying to slash you and stuff like that, and having to fight for your life. That's kind of on you if you've got seats in their end and stuff like that, and they invented hooliganism, and you end up with 39 folk dying at the high souls and things. But apart from that, it's a delusion. You delude yourself that everything's nice and safe and lovely, because you're not invested in football. I'm not invested in any club in England. I'm invested in the whole of the English scene emotionally. It's just over the border. You've all, like the same way you watch cop movies and, cop Starsky and Hutch and all that, and Cagney and Lacey, LA Law, all the things you'd watch. It's America, Hill Street Blues. I can understand what they're saying. It's no dubbed, there's no subtitles. It's different, but it's the same. It's just relatable enough. I can understand it. It's great. It's glamorous. It's safe glamour. It's the same with the English club scene. Because I've got a cottage. I've got a ground. It's called a cottage, Craven Cottage. I mean, that's no the Craven Cottage. That's no the cottage. That's the pavilion, isn't the Craven Cottage? Different thing on the girl that's nearby, but that's a pavilion they've got, and they've got an actual pavilion, the cricket pavilion. It's just that whole English sporting thing that's so lovely. And Craven Cottage is where Manchester United are going tomorrow, so I don't want to think about that. The whole English thing has been removed. That's unsafe. It's no glamorous. It's no glossy. It's no misty. It's no feather cut and blow dried and stuff like that. It's just no nice at this particular moment in time. The English scene, and all I've got then is Hall and Oates, and she's taking that away from me as well. So here I am. This is your Fat Eck. Rangers are off to Tannadice to see if we can make it 4 losses, 4 draws and 4 wins in our away form this season. Preview pod, domestic away form, that is. Preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. It was Colin and John last night on Jersnet. It's just been a bit of a nightmare personally for me, as it will be for a lot of yous, for not just what happened on Thursday. That was a nightmare. That was pride. It was painful, but it was worth it. It was a kind of salty, lovely pain there, what happened on Thursday night. It hurts so good. But also a lot you've been through, very real stuff, I would imagine. Various levels of seriousness with the old storm. Owen battering Scotland, particularly battering Glasgow and the Central Belt. So hope everybody's all right. We've got lots of friends over Northern Ireland as well. I hope you are okay over there too. And anybody watching this pod, I hope everybody's all right with the old thing. So I didn't get a chance to watch what I'm saying, Jersnet last night, but it's Colin and John, they're always good value, total OGs, actual OGs for Jersnet, boys that were there long before I was involved in Jersnet, getting it up and going along with Frankie. And so give that a watch. It will still be there. Their Dundee United preview pod up in the Jersnet YouTube page. And I'm also sponsored by getting your tree cut down, getting the pollards or arborealists or tree surgeons, whatever they're called, getting the guys in. When somebody says to you in October, I think the branches are maybe, I think that tree's dead, it's going to come out into your garden, maybe go through the... When I went out and I pulled off all the ones that were really dodgy, and that was like, they were fine, that was great, thanks very much and that, but I thought a few other ones are probably a bit shaky, and I was out there like on Thursday, that was what I was doing Thursday afternoon before the game. That's how I prepared. I was doing the back gear, just a wee bit, it was a tiny back gear, and we've got this wee bit that goes down a hill. The street behind us is it's down a bit lower, and we've got this old tree which it's not very big, but it's just I think it is dying. So that means you spend all day Friday watching it, flapping about, and then when you stand in the kitchen, just going, you're like, that's a day off work. That's fine. I'm like, that's a day off work. I could end up destroying my neighbours' houses, any one of the neighbours, and down there basically at 9:30 in the morning as well, just trying to secure a few more branches, pulling them off, breaking them off. They were having to find places to hide the branches, big match, but the wind wasn't going to pick them up, and that wind was. It was brutal. So while I'm watching all that, worrying about the neighbours, thinking if it's going to fall over that tree, it's going to go just in between the gardens. It's going to probably land in that bit there, and it's probably going to be fine. But while I was doing that, there was a massive clunk, a clunk in the roof. What was that? It sounded like something rolling down our roof. Well, it was the chimney cap thing, terracotta chimney cap. Which, if I'd been out the front door, that's why I'm telling you to stay in between 10 and 5. I would have died. It would have smashed me right in the coupon, and it would have killed me. But what it did kill instead was a 3 or 4 tiles on the old roof. So now every time it rains, until we manage to get some do it, I'm going through the insurance, Admiral Insurance. Anybody any idea how that works? How quick are they? Do they recommend a contractor for you? Don't they? They'll organise it, because I try to see some guy who just does roofing stuff. They know he'll be like. There's folk, ka-ching time for me, mate. There's folk here who've got their whole roofs gone, their whole chimney stacks gone. You've got 4 cracked tiles. Not going to prioritise you, so I'll do it through the insurance to make sure it gets done as quickly as possible. But now, every time it rains, I'll be absolutely panicking. There's a fella contacted me. Didn't even contact me, just liked a few things, or friended me on Facebook. I'm like, I don't know this fella. Who is this guy? And his name didn't seem familiar at all. And it was Stevenson Crosskey. He's now used to be in Stevenson Masonic RSC. Stevenson Masonic RSC. I was thinking that's fine. The guy's a blue nose. Maybe just knows me through the pods and all that. So just not friend him back kind of thing. Friend, that's cool. And then I think I saw him on Instagram. And I'm like, all right, I'll just friend that guy on Instagram as well, because he was doing lots of photographs from various Rangers trips abroad. And say, I don't do the away trips anymore. So. And it's lots of good photographs of Rangers in Nice and Rangers in Piraeus and all that. I'm like, I don't know who this fella is. Does he know me through the pods, or doesn't it? I wonder why he's kind of liking stuff that I would put up on Facebook about Rangers every now and then. And I thought, oh, that's a nice guy, but I don't know. I don't know who he is. It turns out it's actually my dad's uncle, who's only like a month older than my dad. Yeah, Rangers supporter. Yeah, Ayrshire. So his boys know that are like actually my dad's cousins, but I feel as if they're my cousins, because we're kind of same age in that. 2 boys, one just died recently, unfortunately. My uncle himself, he died last year. I mentioned him in the pods. Last year, my Uncle Andrew passed away, total blue nose. And then there's Stephen, his son, just passed away recently as well. He's just like a year younger than me, so it's heavy times. But he's got another son, Andrew's about a year older than me, and 2 daughters as well. And it's one of the daughters, it's her husband, who I'd never really met. I've not seen her for ages, don't socialise or whatever like that. And it's her husband. That's unbelievable. And he was he's in Manchester, of course, for the trip. So I went to Manchester. Used to go to Manchester a lot with my wife. Not a lot, maybe 3 or 4 times. Just mostly between Christmas and New Year, when the families were still on the go. Used to, my family's down in North Ayrshire, my wife's family's through in East Lothian, so we'd go back and forth. We'd be no kids and that, and we'd be touring. Just, back and forth. We're in Glasgow, so you're flying to the East Coast and flying or driving to see, and it's great and all that. But it got a point, you're just like, there'd be a wee bit in between Christmas and New Year where we're both off, and it's like, right, let's just go for a few days somewhere, like down to Birmingham one year and down to Manchester when you're somewhere else another year. But Manchester, been quite a few times, been for weekends. We're travelling down south and you stop off in Manchester if you're going really far south, have a wee night in Manchester. It's obviously plenty to do, fantastic place. Been for the football a couple of times. Only time I saw Rangers in Manchester was for the final in 2008, the UEFA Cup final. But been at Old Trafford during the Euros, and I went to Old Trafford to see Man United against Wimbledon once. I was talking about that as well, just to say I'd been to Old Trafford and seen Man United. That was back in the mid-90s. But I thought I knew Manchester quite well, but only knew the main drags. And as my wife and I, we've been married for like 25 years now, and you just get to a point where you realise. We went to Manchester this one night. I don't know when this would be, maybe 10 years ago, I don't know. And we were on, is it Deansgate, the big massive and it's like, we were in this like a slugging lettuce. We'd go to the hotel the night before, it's Premier Inn or whatever it was, and we'd went, there's a wee boozer right next to it. And it was nice, and there was kind of live music and all that. It was like a Thursday night, so just being in the pub on a Thursday night, it's a bit of a thrill. And we were in there, and we're like, you feel like you're up late in a school night kind of thing, and it was burgers and chips and beers. That was great. I love that. First night on a holiday, a bit of music, a few more pints, just went to a tournament. We got a drink somewhere else. Then it was back to the hotel. Right, that's fine. That'll do. Big day the next day. To I don't know, galleries and museums, all that stuff you do when you're on holiday. And then but obviously the odd day you're thinking, can't wait to get something to eat and a drink. So that night, I will hit all these pubs and that. Is it Deansgate, that big long street? The one that they cut up, they have cycling races and that in Manchester. You always see it in the telly. It's always that main drag. I parked at the end of it. There's a kind of NCP car park right at the near end of it if you're coming from Glasgow. I parked in there when we were the UEFA Cup final. But we went to this drink, and it was a slugging lettuce. And I remember being at a stage in my life where a slugging lettuce was really posh. It was like all bar one. Now you think that's posh now. I thought slugging lettuce, well, this is difficult. I think we tried our spoons. We wanted something to eat and drinks. At that age, we just need something to eat and a drink. And we're in this slugging lettuce at like tea time, and the place was folks standing on the tables and stuff like that. And we were kind of like, oh, yeah, like we used to be into this. Aye, let's get a drink, and then we'll look at the menu, and we're just like, and it came a point the two of us looking at each other and just went, I'm not enjoying this. No, neither am I. I'm kind of depressed in here. I so am I. What the I know, it's like, I don't know if you remember the time that you just realised you weren't into clubbing anymore. You couldn't handle nightclubs and stuff like that. I remember talking to a guy who was doing, a young fella who was doing a test driving a motor. We're going to try and get a new motor, and the fella, will test drive it, but an employee has got to drive you about in this new car, and I think he was basically hungover, the boy. I think he's probably drunk driving us. He was talking about how he'd been up. It was a Sunday, we went to this car place, and he'd been up on the Saturday night, and he'd been clubbing. I'm like, well, he says, I was out late, and I was like, I'm well past all that. He says, I'll never be past that. I'll never be past going out on a Saturday night. And I said, mate, I was exactly the same, and just basically being that miserable old man. He said, I can't believe there'll ever come a moment where I don't want to go out and hit a club on a Saturday night and stay up to 3, 4 in the morning dancing and all that and taking drugs and whatever. And I thought, yeah, I used to think that as well. There just comes a moment where you can't be asked. And the same thing, this was another moment like that. You're like, I just can't. It confused us. The two of us were like, what's happening here? If we can't drink, this relationship's over. It's the only thing keeping it going. And we left, no knowing where we're going to go next. And we're starving, and you'd had one drink, so you're kind of like wanting the next one. But if you get a gap between it, and we saw another place, and it was, I don't know, a Tiger or something like that. When this Deansgate row, there was pubs and all that, but it was all there was a Spoons, maybe something like that. All these kind of pubs, like, that looks a bit wild in there. That looks empty. That looks miserable. And it was like, suddenly we couldn't find any way to drink. This isn't right. This isn't right. Are we just past this? Is this what being a pensioner is? Are we going? And this is probably like my 30s at this point. This was happening. This just isn't it. Maybe mid 30s for me. My missus a few years younger than me, but what is going on here? And we go to this place. We found this place. Suddenly, that way we're falling out with each other. We're narking at each other because we're starving, and we're also realising, why do we not just want to get pissed and eat anything? Why are we getting fussy? What's wrong with us? And then I just remember this place. It was doing a wee kind of street. It was off the main drag, and it was doing a wee street. And it had a funny name, and I couldn't. The area, the road was that was a really memorable name. One road, and then the area had a kind of funny name. It was, I can't remember what it was, but and this pub, and it was. I've tried to remember for years what the name of the pub was. It was like the Ox or the Oxen or the Ox Plough or something. The Oxo Soup. And it was an old building, and it looked really well decorated outside, and it looked it looked a bit like a restaurant, but it was a pub. And we're like, well, we try this place. We might as well. Now you get more famished. And we went inside, opened the door. It was just warm. It was like the opposite of the American Werewolf in London moment where they walk in and everyone just goes quiet, like, you're no welcome here. It was like so many other films that I can't think of any example where it's like, yeah, come in, it's okay, everyone's all right. This is nice. Come in, you're a bit. And we walked in, and we got a drink first to kind of suss it out. and suss out the form and stuff like that. It's like, there's folk up there eating. And because we'd walked about, because we were so cranky, we thought we'd been walking for ages. But because we're in the early bird special territory, we'd actually only been out since 5 o'clock. It was only like 8 o'clock at night, or 7:30 or something. And I remember going up to the bar and being, can we order food here as well? Could we get something to eat? We're just having a drink just now. But the guy's like, I might just go and have a seat over there. That's how we kind of eating about it. Just sit over there, I'll bring the menu and stuff like that. And the menu was lovely. The stuff in the menu was good. It wasn't too expensive. It wasn't too much. We discovered gastropubs. That's now realised I was a middle class wanker in many ways, but also old. And it was just what we needed. Do you know what I mean? I was sitting, it was warm. I think there was maybe a fire. I mean, an actual fireplace with an actual fire got. And because it was that kind of time of year between Christmas and New Year, and it was lovely. There was a few. It was busy, but it wasn't that busy. I think they were having a quiz later on as well. So still stuff happening, but it's nothing too wild. It's a quiz. It's kind of communal, but it's also no like involving drugs and dancing tables and stuff like that. And we had it, and it was the most beautiful feeling ever. It's like, yeah, we've been saved. We can still go out. We just need to. And the next time I went to Manchester was between Christmas and New Year the following year, and it's like, that's banked, by the way. We're walking about doing stuff during the day, but going, like, that looks like a good place to go at night. That looks a good place to go at night. Because the whole holiday depends on getting a good drink and a good bit of scran at night time. That looks good, that looks good, that looks good. But we've also, remember, we've got the Oxel Cube place, wherever that is. We'll know where to find it. We knew where it was. Didn't know the name of streets or anything, but we knew exactly where it was from memory, muscle memory. We can go there, and we went to one place that we'd seen during the day, and they weren't doing chips or anything. Something wasn't getting served, or was it they were only doing chips? And we're like, alright, we can't stay in here. So we know we'll get the Oxo Cube place, and we went along somewhere else, and it was just full of folk going mental, just on a coke or something like that. And there was another place again. It was a bit desperately empty. But it's all right. We know we're heading there. We're just going. No, fate has sent us back to the oxen cart or whatever it was called, and. We went down there, and it was shut. And it just a sign up saying closed for redecorations during the Christmas period. I don't think the pubs are making any money between Christmas and New Year. We've been lucky the previous year. It must have been a bad year financially. It's probably 2008. It's probably the same time. And that was us. We're forced to go to a Spoons or something like that and just be totally miserable. Went back to the hotel. It was Manchester had given us this moment of bliss and a moment of discovery, a moment of growth. And then the next, it took it straight back off us. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying about the other night? You get what I'm saying about the other night about we equalised. They got the first time we have ever scored. I thought it was the first. I just kept going about how it's the first time we scored in a European tie in Manchester. It was our fourth time of playing UEFA football. UEFA competition football in the city of Manchester, 2 times in the Champions League at Old Trafford, 1 time in a European final. Pretty significant stuff. And here we were in the Europa League, our 3rd visit to Old Trafford in European terms. This was the Europa League group stage. And we scored. But I forgot we'd played. Well, I didn't forget. I was at the 2 times we played Manchester United at Ibrox. But they both finished 1-0 to Manchester United, those 2 games. It's like, so this is the first time we'd ever scored against Manchester United. Our 5th attempt in terms of matches, our 3rd time in terms of European ties. Basically, Manchester City, we beat them 3-2 in a friendly in 2009. I was at that one. I remember Craig Bellamy scored late on, and he's getting it up and all that, and then Davy Weir scored right at the end to beat. That was nice. They just started getting into the money at that point, Manchester City. They were just becoming a thing. They're becoming the monster they are now. They've always been a thing in Man City. In many ways, they might have ruined the thing they were. But I was like, that's the only kind of footballing high I think I've got involving Manchester. And Manchester's such a central part of enjoying the English game from the distance. Be able to watch that when things get too bad, Scottish-wise, or too intense, or too bitter. It's just nice to switch one match of the day and disappear into the English thing. Like, couldn't he? Manchester's a massive part of that. And I was thinking, but no. They went and scored at Old Trafford. Actually scored. It's not the Stretford end. We still haven't scored at the Stretford end. I've still, never get anywhere near scoring the Cop, not. But at Anfield, but oh god, yeah, this is just utterly glorious to do this here. And what a result! Again, we're not going to lose under Clement away from home in Europe. Surely people will start getting the message about how he is a manager. 8 European away games involving winning in Spain for the first time against Spaniards, and Prague, and the first time we beat Swedes, the first time we ever beat a Swedish team. in Europe in any single match against Swedish teams. Not a lot of games against Swedish teams, but it's quite a thing. We can now say we're beating the champions of Sweden in Sweden, while they'll be becoming champions of Sweden again, while they're retaining their league title. The Allsvenskan, we beat Malmo in Malmo under Clermont, and here we are. We've equalised against Manchester. We've scored against them for the first time ever in European competition. We're going to take something off them. It's going to be fun. I mean, I knew who to get into, but it just took it off us, didn't it? Just took it off us within 3 minutes. It was gone again. And I went on to Facebook, or I got a Facebook notification for this fella. I'm not going to name him. And it's a picture of him in this pub that's got kind of wainscoting, they call it. That's something what they call it in Middlemarch. That kind of panelling, lovely style, almost Tudor style, kind of oak panelling around the walls, and it's painted kind of New England light blue. I'm thinking that looks familiar, and there's a Stevenson Cross Keys banner hung up on the one. He's got the picture of that, you know. The boys are in this pub, and it's at, on Facebook you do at where you're at. You can tag the place you're at. The Ox Noble, Manchester. That's the fucking pub. He was at the same booze. I've never spoke to this guy. I know I don't even exchange messages. It's just liking each other's photographs. I know, and I'm like, he's that's the boozer. That's Potato Wharf on Liverpool Road. Potato Wharf. Well, but that's the strange name and the obvious name, and it's the Ox Noble. It's too soon. It's too soon. I know it's a trope of football podding that you're supposed to, you know, oh, what's it? Football, you know, why does it make us feel so bad? Why am I such a downer? Why does it feel so bad? You know, oh God, you know, why do we go through this for our football team? And then when you have a massive win, how can somebody, you know, 11 guys you never met before kicking a piece of leather about, how can it make you feel so happy? How can it enrich you? This is a mix of the two. It's a total mix of the two. That goal is just glorious. The goal Dessers scored. So it's straight away right into my top 10, I think, of Rangers goals of all time. Rangers goals, and that's a pod in itself. Top 10 of Rangers goals, but it's both sustained me and pained me, and you'll be the same. Since the 88th minute or 89th was of that game the other night when he hit it, it's such a thing of such beauty, but you didn't get a chance to properly enjoy it before you get hit with a sledgehammer, even though you knew there was a possibility that was always going to happen. We'd be getting beat by one goal, and for a few minutes we weren't getting beat by one goal. Then we went back to getting beat by one goal. And quite frankly, when Jack Butland punched the ball into his net in the 52nd minute of the game, and we're bringing on teenagers. We brought one on, we bring another one on. You're thinking, if we can avoid an absolute scudding here, it's going to be a miracle. If we only get beat 1-0, that'll do me fine. So you go beat by one goal. But so much changed on a pivot. So much depends on the red wheelbarrow. So much depends on that spin. That little Bergkamp at St James's Park-esque spin. And that just the way he hit that thing, it was like it should be rendered in concrete. Not even marble. It's just, there was something so solid, something so delicate about it. It could be like made a little formation of butterflies flying through the air, that turn. And then the way he hits the ball is so definite. It's so angular. It's so, I'm no a mason. I know it. I just, but I'm on the square or on the level and the craft and all that. I don't know, guys and brothers in the old masons. Is that the most Masonic goal ever scored? It seemed very slide rule, angular kind of, and the way he did all that delicate stuff, but still upright, was bolt upright. Dessers, as he spun and he knocked it in, and it had me doing that trope of what's it all about? What is it all about? So I looked up on, because I started getting a bit, I know enough about philosophy to get myself into trouble, i.e. nothing. I don't know anything about philosophy. I'm the kind of person that can go, oh, that's Sartre. And what's your favourite work of Sartre's? I'm like, hell is other people. That's just something he said. I don't know. I don't know anything. So I just know enough to get myself into trouble. And I know about ontology being the study of, but it came to mind as I was lying on my bed on Thursday worrying about the Storm and not able to get to sleep because I was so excited by the goal and so hurt by the goal that Bruno Fernandes scored almost straight after. I could not get to sleep thinking about that tree that was going to go into my neighbour's garden, but it didn't. No knowledge that the chimney right above me was going to come off. And I couldn't get to sleep. And I found myself thinking, it's ontology, isn't it? Ontology is the study of being, and I flipped on to Wikipedia. I just got the phone next to me in my bed, and I put the night vision thing on, when it's dulled down, and I'm looking at it, and it goes, ontology, it's split down into things like, you get concrete objects and abstract objects, and concrete objects are things that exist in time and space, for example, a tree. It's foreboding there. And abstract objects, they exist beyond space and time, like the number 7 or the colour green. And I'm thinking, well, 7 green bottles, hang on, they're no real, we can no touch it, but no, the number 7, it's just an abstract concept, just like the colour green, and I feel as if Desser's goal is both those things. No green, for a start, it's no 7, but it exists in space and time, but it also exists beyond space and time because I can't do anything with it. I can't shag it. Do you know what I mean? I can't lick it. I can't, stir the bolognese in the kitchen in the big pot, the bolognese that I'm going to have while listening to Hall & Oates. I can't use it to stir the, I can't sit on it. I can't ride it to the game on Thursday night and then like that. I can't use it to patch up the 4 holes that I've got in the roof that I had to go across the road and get binoculars out to look up at the roof to see them properly, so the folk next door now think that I'm perving into their bedroom window and stuff like that. But I can't do anything with it, and yet it'll be there forever. It's just, it makes you feel so utterly proud and utterly delighted. It's far too soon to be previewing a game against anybody else, to be playing a game against anybody else. I certainly hope that Rangers don't go through anything that I'm going through. The snagging list for the last pod, from my post-match reaction pod, Manchester United, it's Gary Ralston. Can you see that? Is it back to front? I don't know what's happening with the picture here, but it's Gary Ralston that wrote the Gallant Pioneers. He was the fella that was talking about, I heard on the Craig Houston podcast. An extended interview with him, like when Craig Houston first, I think it was the first couple of podcasts that he went. I remember he was interviewing folk, and I liked to hear what they were saying. And it was Gary Ralston that he did. He was talking to. They did the photo. I was saying Scott McDermott, who I've met. I met Scott McDermott, I think, because I met him through another fellow who's kind of Rangers connected. I just always got McDermott Rangers. But it's Gary Ralston, and our book, The Gallant Pioneers, a book so good that it's an actual sin, and I really need to apologise for getting it wrong. Who wrote that? A book that's a seminal book that's totally affected how the Rangers support regard themselves, and that was what I was thinking the other night when Dessers scored that goal. It has changed things. We have scored against Manchester United in Europe. That does change your life, stuff like that. You need to do these things. Next time we do it, it'll be a winner, hopefully. We're scoring against. We can get them again. We can get them again in this competition this season. It's so. I apologise for that to Gary Ralston. Fantastic book, and I also need to apologise. I'm doing it again just now. The slowness of the delivery. The delivery. I might be doing it again just now. It was very kind of getting pompous and grandiose and all that. I was just in a total wham. And it was one of the ones I thought, it's an hour and 15 minutes. Oh, I must have packed a lot in there. But no, the reason it was an hour and 15 minutes is because I was just so devastated that I was talking like this for an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm really sorry about the delivery there. Also, a snagging item that I missed for the snagging list for the preview pod, the preview pod of the Manchester United game, Alex Forsyth. I keep talking, when we went down to Manchester, not a bit of trouble the other night at Old Trafford, and I knew from my uncle's mates on the Stevenson Masonic RSC, guys a bit old, maybe just the generation before me, if you like, and they would talk about all games in the 70s and that. I went in 1977 to my first Rangers game, but they were like late 60s into 70s when the stuff was a bit hear 'em, scare 'em. They talk about how you have to wear a crash helmet if you're standing in the front of the old Rangers end, because anybody scored against Rangers, bottles would get lobbed. Before the drink ban, bottles would be getting lobbed for the back of the Rangers end by folk who were too pissed to throw anything anywhere. So they would never land on even the park, never mind hitting the player that we're trying to hit. They would just, smack the back of the coupons of folk, fellow Rangers fans at the front of the Rangers end. They would tell you all the kind of stories, and I remember them talking about, somebody must have mentioned something about Alec Forsyth. And I had it in my head, it was the Alec Forsyth testimonial. It wasn't. Alec Forsyth had only played for us he only played for Manchester United for about 2 seasons when we went down there. I think it was 1974. And there was a fellow who got in touch with me the other night privately. I'm not going to name him or anything like that. He's going to be who was at the game. He was at that one at Villa Park. And he's at Harvard. He was at Harvard. He ended up at Harvard, this guy. Total intellectual. That's not why I mentioned ontology. I'm not trying to show off to him, not at all. But he was, Phil was at the games, and he was saying, I don't know if the game got abandoned, but the Man United fans had come on the park because they had a reputation then in the 70s, and they came up to the Rangers end to challenge us. We were in that old paddock thing. They had the terrace, and they had down there the front of the away end. Manchester United, Old Trafford. In the 70s even, there's a kind of sweep of seats opposite the main stand. There was a sweep of seats went right the way kind of round one half of the ground, round the bend, if you like. That was the thing that made it it was a cantilever stand, it was quite a thing in the 70s. And there was basically down one side of the pitch and then round behind the away goal, or the away end, if you like. It was a kind of paddock terrace. I mean, that was quite intense. You've seen that packed, but Rangers fans, I would imagine, were in there, and the Man U fans had run onto the pitch for the Stretford end and come up to challenge us, because you went to Newcastle and caused a riot in the first cup semi-final in '69 and all that, and we're Man United, we're the Red Army, and pretty much I think they got the same answer that Guardia Civil had got in a couple of years earlier when they tried to charge us in the new camp. They got leathered. So that's maybe a bit of bad feeling from that. It was spilled over into the fixture the other night, led to some of the trouble in the stand, in the various stands as Rangers fans, as per, were all over the home sections, because if we take any chance to get a ticket to watch our team. But it wasn't the Alex Forsyth testimonial. I think it was just a friendly. And this fella, the Harvard professor that he is now in my head, had said to me, it was both teams were at the cups. They were at the FA Cup. It was like cup weekend, or it was quarter-final stage or something like that. So they just arranged a friendly with each other. It was Alex Forsyth was a common factor between Rangers and Manchester United at that point in time, but I don't think it was anything to do with a testimonial for him. Maybe it's part of the transfer deal. I don't know. But I think I probably just deluded myself with that idea. I was listening to one of my uncle's mates who's as daft as me. But we had lost. Dundee had beaten us in the Scottish Cup. Beat us 3-0 at Airbucks in front of like 70,000 or something. I think, was that the game that get played on a Sunday? I've heard my uncle's mates talking about that. A game on a Sunday, oh my God, it used to be a big deal. And we'd played Queen's Park at home in the previous round in the Scottish Cup, so that's something to bear in mind. But it wasn't Alex Forsyth's testimonial. I think it was just Manchester United had gone out the FA Cup to Ipswich Town, bad Man U team at the time. Something nowhere near as good as the one they've got just now. Yeah. So it's too soon as far as I'm concerned. I really can't handle the fact that I've got to talk. I can't handle the fact it's actually disgusted that my roof. I feel really, really bad that I've got damage to my roof, because so have Celtic, so has Parkhead, and that is just it's just horrible. You feel kind of tacky, kind of clatty to be in the same situation as Celtic Park. Only joking, folks. Only joking. Yeah, my name's Alec Anderson. Girl, you gotta love your man. Girl, you gotta love your man. Take him by the hand. Make him understand. The world on you depends. Our life will never end. Gotta love your man, yeah. So, I just want to point out, this isn't a snagging list item. I was talking about Peter Schmeichel. It just suddenly hit me the other night. Did Manchester United not go decades before they lost a game at Old Trafford in Europe? Not to try and get us taking them so close to a draw into context. And I was talking about Peter Schmeichel going up and scoring the last minute. I think he scored a goal against Aston Villa as well. In fact, was that for Manchester City? I can't remember. I think he scored against Everton. Peter Schmeichel would come up for corners and help them win the Champions League by coming up for corners in 1999. But I think he did it when he was at Man City as well, so I might be getting goals confused. But I knew it was Rotor Volgograd of Russia. He'd scored against them. Then I was like, no, was that just a consolation goal? I was forgetting about the away goals rule. They drew 0-0 in Russia. In the second leg, it was UEFA Cup in the mid-90s. And they were getting beat 2-1 or 2-0, whatever it was. But I think they were getting beat 2-1, and he come up late on in the game and equalised to make it 2 each, but they were going out in away goals rule, so that's why there was no massive cheering or anything like that. But it maintained their unbeaten Old Trafford records. And I looked it up to double check, and it was 26th of September 1956. Manchester United's first game in the European Cup, the second edition of the European Cup, the season that we were in it for the first time, our first season in Europe, 56-57, and they played Anderlecht. They won 2-0 in Belgium in Anderlecht, and then the second leg, their first home leg in Europe, they played it at Main Road, of course they did, and they beat Anderlecht 10-0. 10-0 on the night. Dennis Violet got 4 goals. Busby Babes beat Anderlecht 10-0 in September 1956, and it was the 30th of October 1996 when they lost 1-0 at home to Fenerbahce in the group stages of the Champions League. Now, they didn't stop losing. They lost to Juventus in that same group stage at Old Trafford that season, and they lost at home to Borussia Dortmund in the second leg of the semi-final when Dortmund went on. That's 96-97 season. But that was it. 26th of September 1956 to the 30th of October 1996, Manchester United were unbeaten at home in Europe. And I know they get relegated in the mid-70s, but they were in Europe pretty damn regularly. So 40 years. They went just over 40 years without losing a home game in Europe. That's what we were up against the other night. That's the pride and the money, basically, we're up against. See, they're slagging Antony. Antony's away to Real Betis. He cost him £81 million from Ajax. And he's a flop, a total flop. Brazilian international Antony, terrible time at Old Trafford. But it's £81 million he cost them, and he's a flop. He's their Sam Lammers, if you like. That's what we're up against the other night. We need to bear that in mind. And the fact that we're frustrated at our own team as well for some of the things we did the other night is really... It's too early for me to be talking about Dundee United. Keep Dessers. Just keep Dessers. I'm so glad that I had a wee moment after he's... I saw other people talking about him. I did it myself, and something you can judge other folk much easier than you can judge yourself. It's very true. After the miss against Fraserburgh, and then I had a wee moment in the preview. I think of the Manchester United preview pod that I did, saying I watched even the BBC and that interviewing him and talking about him after day. It was big Sean Dillon had to basically stick up for him. And Dundee United legend, now playing for Montrose, he had to stick up for him in the post-match comments with Scotty Arfield and Stephen Thompson on the BBC coverage. I was watching that back on the Monday, and it was just like that's the big story here about Dessers, that miss he had, and it was a terrible miss. It was an open goal effectively, but he's then scored the opening goal, Rangers' first goal from a set piece in forever, and sets up a goal for one of his teammates in the second half, and he scores a goal in the last minute as well to complete his hat trick. And it was a magical goal. The goal he scored for his hat trick was different class. And this idea that he can't do this, he can't do that. I mean, even what he can do, he can't score if he's got time to think about it. Well, we had plenty of time to think about that ball, against Aberdeen, the third goal against Aberdeen, where he basically is running for the halfway line, and he's come on as a sub. The goal he scored against Olympiacos in Piraeus, that he had plenty of time to think about that. Had to bear through on goal and then slot it past the goalkeeper. I was like, he's instinctive. Well, the miss he had against Fraserburgh proves he's not totally instinctive either. But the goal he's got against Manchester United was completely... And this idea that he can't score in big games because he hasn't scored against Celtic. Well, he has scored against Celtic, but we get beat 2-1, so nobody remembers it. And he scored the goal that was disallowed in the 3-each... What was eventually a 3-each draw with them at the end of last season at Ibrox, or towards the end of last season. The goal against Real Betis was... just every bit as... It was a phenomenal goal of a completely different kind. Every bit as phenomenal as the goal he scored against Manchester United. And I think that's maybe why I was extra convinced. I got a bit carried away thinking, we're going to do this because Dessers does this. We don't get beat when Dessers scores away from home in Europe. I mean, he even scored against Dynamo Kiev, a kind of standard, a good striker's goal. Again, a poacher's goal against Dynamo Kiev in Lublin this season ultimately didn't do us any good. We get put out over the two legs, but a last minute equaliser, or when we needed one, we were starting to dominate them over there in that game, and then he's gone and he scored that goal in Piraeus that we needed him to, magical, against an Olympic, any Greek side at all. But he scores that goal in last season in Betis, our first and only so far win against Spanish opposition on Spanish soil in European competition. And that was just beautiful. That was just, sell you a dummy, chop, chop, chop. And he got a beautiful finish. And it's in that one other night, it's the spin, magical spin in this shot, and reading the ball from Tav, a fantastic ball from James Tavernier as well, another man that's much maligned and wrongly so. So I'm glad that I'd said on Wednesday night in the preview pod, I'd had a kind of word with myself, because all I talked about in my reaction pod to the Fraserburgh game was that miss. He scored a hat-trick, but what a miss he had at the beginning of the game. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? Who cares? And I think it sums up how we're going this season. A lot. I remember, for example, when we had Nathan Patterson and James Tavernier, folk were freaking out. We need to sell one of them. And we did eventually sell Nathan Patterson. But how can we have two players for the same position? What? There's a strange thing of us needing everything to be really tidy. As a support looking at Rangers, we need to be able to understand stuff. It needs to happen really tidily. There should be 11 top players who play every week, start every game. They all fully function in perfection in their various positions, and then there's your top 5 substitutes who are all good seconds for those positions. And a good striker is somebody who only appears in the box when he scores. Somebody who appears in the box and misses chances, but will then get a hat trick. That's no good. We don't want the miss chance. We don't want the miss. It's going to happen. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody else. But oh my God, listen to me. I'm big enough to admit that. I'm sorry, that sounds totally wanky, but I do it as well. I'm having a word with myself here. I'm not having to go at anybody else. It's Dundee United after playing Manchester United, and we have got Union Saint-Gilloise on Thursday night. It's quite, United, Union, quite. Do you know there's only, it's Burns night tonight, and it was just after Burns. It was February, early February last year. We played Ayr United in the Scottish Cup. Could well be playing them next season, Ayr United, but in the league. But there's only the guy that you said. I told you about the guy that sat next to me who had my season ticket to Copeland Road back in the 86-87 season, 87-88 season it was, and he only shouted 2 things all season, and it was one thing he shouted each time Dundee United played us at Ibrox. There's only one United, and that's a fucking biscuit. And that's, and I ended up shouting something much stupider at the end of the season, and he looked at me pityingly, so I don't mind saying this. I've told you that story, the John Robertson penalty against us for Hearts, but that was his thing. There's only one United, that's a fuck. Well, there's 2 Uniteds, but there's only 2 Uniteds though. There's only 2 Uniteds in the whole of the top 4 league, the whole of the SPFL league. Premiership, Championship, League 1, League 2. It's Dundee United and Ayr United. That's it. There's more Uniteds in MLS than there is in the Scottish in the Scottish league system. There's more Uniteds in MLS. Atlanta United, DC United, Minnesota United. And look at Philadelphia Union, and we're playing Union St Gilles. But it's just, again, it's separated by the same language kind of thing. But you would think it's a traditional English and Scottish thing. But there's only two United in the whole. That's and Ayr United are a proper United. They're a, it's Burns night. We'll talk about the honest men. But they're a proper. It was Ayr Parkhouse and Ayr FC were united to become Ayr United, just one major team in Ayr. And that was just a few years after Aberdeen had done the same thing with 3 teams. They should be Aberdeen United. None of those teams were called Aberdeen United, so they could have been Aberdeen. One of them was called Orion. That's a good name, Then you'd have a right to wear stars, more than one star above your crest. It's the charity shield of European football. But they should have been called Aberdeen. And the one that really gets me is Inverness. People, I know it's a touchy subject. I know it's a really touchy subject. Actually, somebody got in touch with me recently saying basically only support Rangers because I've not read that's no the full story. But that's the breakup of or the merger that killed off Inverness Thistle, really. Between the merger between Caledonian, and it was Caledonian FC. It wasn't Inverness Caledonian that I would always call them back in the days, and now folks still call them Inverness Caledonian. Which is totally obliterating the Thistle bit, who are supposed to be half that team. It was Inverness Thistle and Caledonian FC. It's no Athletic Bilbao. It's Athletic, from Bilbao. Anyway, it's that same kind of thing. But that should surely have been Inverness United. Surely it should have been Inverness United. Is there a juniors team or something called Inverness? I know you get Clark and Accudden, one of the greatest names in Scottish football, but that's really a case to be. I mean, but there's only two Uniteds, and none of them are a biscuit. One's Ayr United, the other one's Dundee United. We've gone from Manchester United to Dundee United, a bit like it's very redolent of Dundee United, who've had better results than us in the new camp, better results than anybody else in the whole of Britain against Barcelona. In Europe, twice they've beat Barcelona home and away in Europe. But I remember them going from Old Trafford, a 2-each draw at Old Trafford in Europe in the 84-85 UEFA Cup. Paul Hegarty scored in both legs, and Man United beat them 3-2 at Tannadice in the second leg. And I remember cheering on Dundee United like mad because beat the English and all that. I don't know if I'd be doing so much today. 2012 has changed a lot. But I remember they scored twice down there. United, they drew 2 weeks from them in Europe. They've been in the semi-finals of the European Cup the previous season, Dundee United, and 2 seasons later they get to the final of the UEFA Cup. So a hell of a European side. Dundee United, and you saw that documentary United 83, I think it was called. It sounds like one of the flights on September 11th. United 83, Dundee United 83, as it's on Sky. They've been showing it recently. They probably showed it a couple of years ago. I imagine the 40th anniversary of Dundee United winning the league, becoming champions of Scotland for the only time in their history. Bit of a miracle. Well worth commemorating. But Maurice Malpass was talking about, he's getting asked, well, how come even Aberdeen had more money than Dundee United in those days, were a much bigger club basically. How could you outdo, to win the league in a league with Aberdeen and the Old Firm, never mind the Edinburgh clubs who are underperforming as usual? How can you? How did you manage to make that happen? He was like, well, with sports science. He literally, this is like 2 years ago. Maurice Malpass is talking about 40 years ago. He said it was sports science. We had dietitians, we had sprint trainers. We analysed. Jim McLean had your diet and all that was major. And I remember the thing with Jim McLean. He stopped this thing of players that were coming up for Glasgow or coming in for Aberdeen, different parts of the country. If you're playing for Dundee United, you stayed in Dundee. They got you digs in Dundee because he was obsessed with the fact that when they're on these young players on train journeys and that would be drinking Coca-Cola and eating chocolate and crisps and stuff like that on the journey to the training. He knew all that was sports science. When Václav Černý pulls up the other night, kaput, done. Do you get the point of why the manager rested him? Against Motherwell and what have you, because he needed the rests. And when you get overused, you will pop a gasket. And so I don't know if we don't know because of Storm, Eoin. There was no training. The manager was saying this on Sky. There was no training at Murray Park yesterday. Did I call it Murray Park? Yeah, I did. And that was the start of us doing the sports science properly. Actually, Dick Advocat come from the Netherlands going, you need to get your own a proper training facility. We can't be going to an old Greyhound stadium across the road that's a car park. It wasn't much better when Rangers were using the Albion as a training facility. You need to get somewhere that's got all the gear, basically, all the mod cons, if you want to become an all mod cons football team. I said cons. So because Storm, the roads, and you'll be the same. There's trees down across the roads everywhere. It's mental. It's like the day after the Blitz. It's nothing like after an air raid, Alec. That's an insult to people who suffered in air raids. But it's destruction all over the place. The roads are blocked. People's cars totally being hit by trees and things like that. So the manager, obviously, Rangers players couldn't go into training yesterday. He's not a chance to assess them. He probably doesn't want to anyway. But never mind. Sports science. What a tree surgeon. Get a tree surgeon. Ain't that a bit? It's nothing but trees running about Auchenhowie. It's just totally surrounded by trees. I mean, I'm sure Milan have got a tree surgeon on call at Milanello. So we should get one of those as well to make sure it's safe to go into training for the Rangers players, so we can find out if Černý is going to be playing tomorrow, if Leon Balogun is going to be back. And I think that'll have a lot to do with whether never mind the Busby babes, it's going to be the Belgian babes, whether they're going to be included in the starting lineup tomorrow. like Bailey Rice, Finlay Curtis. It's really only Finlay Curtis that can be a Belgian babe, that it can be one of, because like Bailey Rice got his start under Michael Beale, and Leon King. It was Giovanni van Bronckhorst bloodied him against Liverpool at Anfield. He get brought in by Gio, so it's maybe only Finlay Curtis. But I think that's all. Inciala will be a Belgian babe as well, so he's probably going to come back. If Leon Balogun isn't going to come back, he'll come back into the side for Tannadice tomorrow. I would imagine we'll get Danilo. Hopefully, I don't know what stage we're at with Danilo's recovery from the injury he's picked up. Hopefully he's available. Maybe the performance of Nadim Bajrami will make it more likely that the likes of Finlay Curtis and Bailey Rice will get a start tomorrow. But I think that's all down to, I think it's majorly down to the injuries. I know we've got Tom Lawrence, the man who scored our winner the last time we were at Tannadice, when he was on a bit of a run of goals. He scored a winner at home to Hibs as well, and he scored away to, who else? No, he scored at home in Europe as well. Was that against Lyon? I think it might have been. But he scored against Ross County. When we were playing Ross County at Hampden, we pounded them 6-0. That's something I wanted to bear in mind. Anybody criticising the manager, and the manager deserves criticism, absolutely. Until Rangers are performing, at the peak of their powers, he will always get criticised, quite rightly. But we need to get it into context, and I think he's beaten. Since this year, the calendar year 2025, we've scored 3 goals at least in our home games and won a lot of them. And that's, one of them's been against Fraserburgh, 5-0. Fraserburgh with the black and white stripes and the red socks. We're talking about that. Fraserburgh, black and white stripes, red socks. Grimsby Town, black and white stripes, red socks. Ardrossan Winton Rovers, black and white stripes, red socks. Kind of fishing towns, port towns, that kind of thing. There's no fishing town, port town in the northeast of Scotland. There's St Mirren. Went there, there's the black and white stripes, the sort of red socks and the opposition, and 3-0 for them. It's a good week for the fishing town teams. So we are the team with the worst away record in Scotland, just in the top flight just now. We've only, as I say, we've drawn 4 away games, we've lost 4 away games, we've only won 3 away games, and it's all league. Even the Scottish Cup, we're at home at Queen's Park again. All our League Cup games were home, or Hampden is a neutral venue, or Hampden is a home venue. As I've got a second straight Scottish Cup tie at home. Maybe we'll only play league games away from home this season, out and out away from home this season. But this is one of the 3 venues that we've won at. We won here in September. Dundee United came to Ibrox in November. Sam Dalby, who's on loan from Wrexham, good striker for Dundee United, and he's just extended his stay to the end of the season. He's not going back to Wrexham, so that's bad news for us. Maybe not, though, if we manage to defend them better. The big centre forward, let's just let a cross go into the middle of our box and let him get on the end of it totally unmarked when he scored for United at Ibrox in November. The only points we have dropped at home domestically this season, the only game we've failed to win at home domestically this season was Dundee United, 23rd of November. They drew 1 each at Ibrox, and Dundee United, only St Johnstone are worse at home in the top flight this season. I say we're the worst team away from home, so it's quite a conundrum trying to pick a winner on this game from the form guide. We've been down to Manchester. They've been an even shorter journey. It was Monday night, but an equally major game from them. Painfully lost by a single goal to Dundee in the Scottish Cup. A huge loss for them over at Dens Park in the Scottish Cup, and I watched highlights of that. United's totally pounding Dundee, and maybe thinking they were due a wee goal here or there, or a wee penalty or something in that game. So feeling bad about it, but they'll be a downer. They beat United at Dens Park just a few weeks before, 2nd of January in the league. So all they've really got to play for now, Dundee United, is the league, and they'll be trying to close in on us. There's 10 points between us and United. We're the only team in the league in the 40s. And Celtic are the only team in the 60s, but we want to get ourselves up into the 50s, get ourselves into 50 points. So if we could win tomorrow, we'll finish off any idea that, with Aberdeen dropping points again today, we'll finish off any idea, I would say, that anybody else is going to finish above us other than Celtic, that anybody else is going to finish second, and we would go psychologically. Celtic's game being postponed today. Psychologically, it would be nice to be 13 points ahead of the team in third, and that's more points than we are behind Celtic. It would take us to within 10 points of Celtic, which is embarrassing, but it's still psychologically, it'd be really nice to get ourselves into that situation. We have got to try and find our 4th away win of the season, and maybe it's a switch. Maybe Philippe Clement, who has been unbeaten away from home in Europe, finally loses at the 8th attempt, loses an away European game as Rangers manager. Maybe that's now going to transfer. There's so many Rangers fans out there who just don't care. I don't care about the European away results. I want us to be winning at home. I want us to be winning away games in the league. Well, maybe this is the time for it to switch round. A lot of the team tomorrow, the first 11 will depend on just the fitness of various players. But I think the choice in sticks in goals is going to be totally political. Form-based, you would say, but it's actually quite a difficult one. Jack Butland, have to talk about it, punches the ball into his own net the other night. I've got a lot of problems with Jack Butland, personal problems. I'm sure he's really bothered. He did have great saves in the game the other night. He had great saves in the game that kept us, are really solid saves, I would say, that kept us in the game, both before and critically. It's always good when a keeper can not let a major rick like that get to him and his form completely collapse in a game. I know, technically speaking, the ball goes through his legs for Man U's winner, but at that range, I'm not really sure. I can't even blame him for that. I maybe would if he hadn't made such a huge mistake for the first goal. Such a critical time in the game when we're doing quite well as well. And we've just brought in 2 substitutes at half time, so we're trying to keep it. So maybe that's what's made him have a wee rush of blood. He's felt as if he's got to come out and he's a vice captain, Jack Butland, so maybe he's felt he's got to come out there and try and do something to compensate for the lack of solidity that we're maybe feeling because we're having to take off Leon Balogun. So it's the centre half, so it's supposed to be the ones covering at corners as much as the goalkeeper. But there's no doubt about it. His form has taken a massive dip this season. His style of talking is what bothers me. The way he comes across, Jack Butland, it's a purely personal thing. It's almost a kind of class-based thing, which I've got a cheek as I'm talking about. I'm suddenly loving to go to gastropubs and all that. It's just so you know that I'm not taking myself seriously when the way he comes across is like a Jake Humphries podcast. It's kind of, I'm a winner. Very, very confident, but I'm used to like Alan McGregor and Andy Gorham, who weren't they great speakers. You wouldn't see them doing a podcast or whatever. They are just, we concede a last minute equaliser against Hamilton Accies when we're running away with the league title in 2020, 2021. There's not even anybody in the stadium because it's during the COVID season, or the one whole COVID season. We shouldn't forget that Celtic won the Scottish Cup and stuff like that in front of no fans, and that wasn't a problem somehow. But we have Greig's just coming out and going, no, we're crap. That's just not acceptable. Now we've got to put away the chances. We're dominating the game. We've got to put away the chances because if we don't, that's what happens. And he did brilliant saves all through the game. I feel as if Jack Butland would have to mention his brilliant saves in the same game if it was him in the same situation after that game at Hamilton Accies. There's a kind of, and if people. And I've got to be careful because if that's your belief system, if that's what makes you, a professional footballer, if that's what gets you where you are, look at me, a fat blob who sits talking to himself in a converted outside toilet, then, more power to you. That's the way to do it. I just feel as if there was this thing where he got to basically interview Rangers to see if they were good enough for him rather than vice versa during the summer. What's your plans? What's it all about? I talked to directors and that. They convinced me it was time I should stay here. And I did think, fuck you. No, I did just think, nah, just go. That's. And then there's other players that I would be quite happy. No, basically, it all comes to talent. At the end of the day, if you've got the goods, I would love the fact that you're interviewing Rangers to see if they're good enough. He's so big. He's so good. He's bigger than us. He's good. But I know I don't really instinctively. I am very much. No one is bigger than the club. But I think we're in a situation tomorrow. Liam Kelly made a bit of a rick, a costly rick against Hibs at Easter Road, for example. Isn't he 100% inspiring and confidence for the fans watching him in the sticks? Liam Kelly, though, I do like him. I think he will get better if he gets more game time. And even Mason, pair young Mason, nothing wee about him. Seriously tall, as a goalie should be. He has a wee moment, a wee lapse of concentration that almost gifted Fraserburgh a goal in the Scottish Cup last Sunday. So we're struggling for goalkeepers, which for Rangers, for somebody like myself, used to McGregor, Woods, Gorham, Charbonnier even. I would have Charbonnier back, Stephen Kloss, all that. It's quite unusual for us to be in a really bad situation with the goalkeepers, it's... I think he comes across kind of blue sky thinking. Jack Butland comes across kind of self-help, a bit like lean training, a banker telling you how to work yourself at your own job kind of thing. What do you want to do in life? What's your aims? What's your goals? I don't like the way he comes across at all. But that's a personal thing. That's just... it could be good fun if he was a great goalkeeper. That was the idea. I was trying to make a thing of it. It'd be a good laugh. No, I don't like that guy because he's so good. Um, yeah, he's a great goalkeeper. He's just won us the treble. But he said that thing about wanting to be best in class, and that really pissed me off. It was supposed to be kind of self-deprecating, a bit of a slagging for me more than anything else. And I did start taking a note of his mistakes when he first joined Rangers, and he looked so solid. I think I'm actually scared he's becoming what Alan McGregor was. Why we had to let Griggs go, because he couldn't come out and command his box at all. In fact, basically, he was still great at shot stopping. He would just let you stand right in front of him, the penalty spot, and fire it into the left, into the right, and do that thing that oh God, Neville Southall used to do at training with Everton, where he would just save without using his hands. They said would shoot at him from any range, any angle, and he would just put his hands behind his back and save with his chest and his head and his legs and all that, just taking the piss at them. Because I think Alan McGregor would be like that, with point blank shots, if he played until he was 70. But he couldn't come off his line at all, and it was just spreading fear throughout our whole defence. So when Jack Butland joined at first, and he was just doing the basics of coming out, catching the ball in the air, and chucking it underarm out to the nearest fullback, I thought it was like a revelation. You'd been a whole season without it. You suddenly realised how bad it had got under Griggs, just towards the end of his career. Al McGregor's a phenomenal just basically the best goalkeeper I've ever seen for Rangers. He won it in terms of length of service and length of service of genius. He was serving up to you. But with Butland, it was great to see somebody coming out and commanding their box. And I was thinking, yeah, but he's probably not going to be a great shot stopper like Griggs. And then he had that performance in Prague, where he had a bit of a double save against Sparta Prague in Clement's first European away game, first European game in charge of Rangers. I thought, Chris, Al McGregor had that in Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's first European game in charge of Rangers against the same team, but at Ibrox. The point blank double save, and I thought, he's going to be all right, Butland. He's going to be a quality goalkeeper. So I started when he had a rick against. He would do this thing, Butland, that I'd noticed. Once a game, he would struggle with a high ball towards the back post area. He did it against Morton in the League Cup game. Ibrox early last season. He did it away to St Johnstone. I think the game where Matondo and Lawrence both scored. Lawrence set up Matondo. It was Diamondi. Diamondi scored. But they scored the other goal that day. But he'd have these wee moments of he wobbled there. He nearly let that go. He nearly dropped it at the foot of an oncoming striker from out of nowhere. But it's now becoming a thing. The performance against Motherwell at Fir Park was horrendous. Total car crash stuff. We got away with a couple in that one. And yeah, that was the other night. That was bad. That was really, really bad. So I don't know. The manager has got a major decision about the goalkeeper tomorrow, and I'm neither bothered nor enthused about whoever he's going to put in nets at Tannadice. Hadji's going to be back tomorrow, thank God. He's probably going to go on the left, you would imagine. Diamandi will be back, thank God. So they're rested. They're thoroughly rested. I'm hoping Dundee United are wanting to go for us. Jim Goodwin has a history of trying to go for Rangers and getting scalped. But he's also, he's more than capable. Jim Goodwin, I think he's learned a lot as a manager. He really wants to prove himself after what happened to him at Aberdeen. So I don't know. I would love it for United. We'll see. It's our home game. We've got nothing left to play for this season except the league. Let's go for it. And Rangers can just kind of hit them in the break. Do that thing of having less possession but hitting teams on the counter, enjoying doing that, because our problem is always shown up, particularly away from home, is not being able to put away the low blocks sort of thing. Yeah. I'm trying to think, is there anything else to say? I've already said far too much, and I think that'll do us, folks. I'm still kind of hungover emotionally from Thursday night. What about the fighting though? What about the 39 arrests? Your super team there, talking about the shame. That was all covered in Report in Scotland last night. Chris McLaughlin doing his usual, making sure we get the real news about Rangers. In case there was even any faded glory, in case there was even any heartbreak or heroic defeat in the way we'd performed at Old Trafford. Right in there, the massive two crests, Man United and Rangers crests, and Amy Irons standing there, and it's Old Trafford behind them. I'm just on watching it to hear about the weather, and this Chris McLaughlin, and he's got his face on him. He's got his, you can see him getting his, this is serious face. This is serious, and it is serious if you get. If you get punched in the face, and of course we don't know who was arrested. We don't know what teams the 39 folk arrested supported, and we don't know which one of them punched the member of the emergency services. But we've heard it was a 3'0" female ambulance driver who's just donated a kidney to somebody, and is in a wheelchair as well, an orphan, and stuff. And I think. It was a heavy Glasgow accent, and it was something sectarian. It was, when it's a massive game, 75,000 folk there or whatever, and Rangers want it more. It means more to us than it does to them. It was a reversal, I think, of what happened. Remember we played Feyenoord. The last time we played them, the time before that, we played them in the old UEFA Cup. Feyenoord won the thing that season, 2001, 2002. You should hear the stories about what they were doing at the Borussia Dortmund trains because the final was at De Kuip. I was a Borussia Dortmund fan was getting in touch with me, letting me know that they were basically setting up traps for the trains coming for Dortmund into Rotterdam, all along the train line. As soon as it got into the Netherlands, it was getting missiles chucked at it and all that. But at Ibrox, the Dutch, tallest nation on earth, I'll never forget that. When Feyenoord scored, it was 1-1 on the night, and they beat us 3-2 in De Kuip. Hell of a game. When they scored that night, their supporters were everywhere. They had the wee corner between the Broomloan and the Govan, and they rushed us, and we didn't rush them. But I always remember I'm up in the back of the Govan at that point, looking down, going, "Did they just slightly charge us at Ibrox? We did charge them back." And same thing with them. When that was before the game, and then during the game, when they scored, they were in the Copeland. And there was a guy like 2 rows in front of me, and the Govan just stands up, "Yeah, the Feyenoord, superb." They were everywhere, and everybody's like, "Hey, Stuart, could you maybe have a word with that guy, because he didn't support us. He shouldn't have been the home mate, because the guys were all huge, a total bears. They were totally up for it. They were willing to pay the price. The price was you get a smack in the mouth, or you smack something, you get ejected, you get arrested, whatever. When you go into the home section. For a game like that, you take it on board yourself. We don't want folk causing trouble. We don't want anybody getting hurt. But I would just say that I'm going to play the Peter Drury card. Manchester, prepare yourself. Rangers are coming. You should prepare yourself. It's all down to Manchester United's ticketing. But we're going to Tannadice tomorrow. It is Burns night, but we'll make it Bruins night. As soon as it's Tannadice, we'll make it Bruins night, as Chapman Billies leave the street and Druthie Neighbours meet as market days are wearing late and folk begin to attack the gate. While we sit bousing at the nappy, getting foo and unco happy, we think knowing the Langscott smiles, the Mosses, Waters, slaps and styles that lie between us and our hame, where we've only dropped points in one measly game, to this mob fae near Glebe Street who are playing the Mora so soon, after Thursday. I can't be bothered.